Good afternoon to you. Mark Seth with HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion. It is now June 16th, 2020. Hope your Tuesday is going well. Still kind of miserable here in southeast North Carolina. Temperatures in the 70s with occasional rain. I'll show you why as we progress through today's presentation. We'll first stop at the National Hurricane Center homepage. This popped up yesterday and I didn't mention it because it really was not a big deal, and it's still not a big deal, but I figured I might as well at least talk about it today. It's a non-tropical area of low pressure, and wait until I show you this. I mean, it's negligible, but it's there, so we need to watch it. Shear is too strong across the area, and I can really show you an example of that. 10% chance of development. I mean, this is just not going to have much of an opportunity to do anything except maybe enhance the rainfall over portions of the Carolinas. Oh, look at this. Just as soon as I start doing this video, that pops up. Wonderful. How about that? I didn't even know that was there. All right, well, we'll add this. 2 o'clock. Look at this. I'm recording this at 1:49 p.m. That's what it says right down there. See? Right there. 1:49 p.m. And yeah, anyway, this updates the tropical weather outlook. Typically updates at 2 o'clock. Sometimes they put it out early. Nevertheless, another area, 10%, showers and thunderstorms located a few hundred miles east of Trinidad and Tobago are associated with a westward moving tropical wave. Some slow development of the system is possible over the next couple of days before upper level winds become less conducive and the system begins to interact with the land mass of South America. This thing is down there. That right there is 10 degrees north latitude. Pretty good straight line. And this is south of there. So we'll take a look at that as well. So a couple of areas on the map here. Interesting. And this is not on, let's see if it's on the 2-day outlook. Oh yeah, there it is. Ha, how about that? Anyhow, literally right before our very eyes. So this is what the vorticity signature looked like yesterday for a good deal of the Atlantic basin. A couple areas that I want you to pay attention to. This is the system off the Georgia and Carolina coast. And this is the area that I want you to watch that's just now highlighted by the National Hurricane Center. As we zoom in and fast forward to today, or zoom ahead I should say, the vorticity has definitely increased off the Carolinas, as you can see there. Again, yesterday, today, and a little bit of an increase down here with that tropical wave at a fairly low latitude. And I'll show you what that looks like on satellite in just a moment. First, off the coast of the Carolinas and Georgia. Yeah, that's the low pressure area. Very, very broad. And look at the upper level winds just screaming out of the southwest. This has virtually no chance to develop, but the interaction between this and the upper level low that's just plaguing parts of the region for days and days now with miserable, yucky conditions. This area of low pressure will interact with that to maybe enhance the rainfall, especially over parts of eastern North Carolina up here. More rain, not a good beach week, sorry, but conditions will improve soon. These little yellow specks, by the way, those are lightning flashes detected by the GO-16 satellite. So there are some thunderstorms out there, some convective activity as it's called. So anybody out in the Gulf Stream or beyond, or if you go beyond, or near shore waters, be careful. It's kind of choppy and nasty, small craft, be careful. Fishing expeditions, that kind of thing. Again, though, this is not going to develop. Don't worry about it. Looking at the wide picture, there is the system approaching the southern Windward Islands. Upper level winds very strong out ahead of it, but a fairly vigorous envelope of energy down there. Tropical wave that emerged off the coast of Africa a couple of days ago, several days ago now. This will progress, as mentioned in the outlook, through the southern Windward Islands, Trinidad, Tobago, interacting with the north coast of South America, and that'll be that. However, as we know, these systems can bring some gusty winds and heavy rains. So, for all you peeps down there in Trinidad, Tobago, maybe Grenada, or Grenada, however you pronounce it. The southern windwards, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, that area, let me know. Let me know what's happening as this passes your area. Luckily, it's not August, or this would probably try to develop. You can also see in the satellite animation the leading edge of another powerful plume. I don't know if the plume is powerful, but it's a formidable outbreak of dust at the 700 millibar level of the atmosphere that gets ejected out into the Atlantic here from the African easterly jet. A very common thing. The dust is so thick it'll block the sun a little bit. We will probably see a reduction in sea surface temperatures out here temporarily, and that is very typical, very normal, even in a busy hurricane season. Look at this, developing convection in the southeast Pacific off the coast of Mexico. Your time is coming. That region, anyway, that I think we're going to start to see some development here pretty soon. Michael Ventris discussing this. We've seen other folks talk about it. Eric Webb mentioned it recently, that another convectively coupled Kelvin wave, another way to call that is an atmospheric Kelvin wave. Basically, this idea of a fairly short term, about a 2-week window of low-level anomalous westerly flow, and the low levels about 5,000 feet up. That helps to enhance vorticity, an increase in overall humidity and moisture. The shear values drop with one of these atmospheric Kelvin waves, as they're called. And one of these is going to be passing through the eastern Pacific and eventually into the Atlantic. And therefore, I, among others, think that the period coming up, 2 to 3 weeks or so, eastern Pacific and eventually the Atlantic, June 25th to the July 15th time frame is what Dr. Ventris is thinking of. Meteorological scientist, weather company, IBM, got a PhD. That's more than I got, so we'll pay attention to what he's saying. What is this show right here? That's very difficult to explain. We'll get into it another time. I like it when you just see greens and browns. That's the easiest. The diagram here is very interesting, but it has a very complex explanation behind it. But so we're just going to focus on the text right now overall. All right? Further into time, this is interesting. Eric Webb, speaking of Mr. Webb, tweeting about that the North Africa precipitation is not only well above average this year against other satellite era May and Junes, but, as he says, we are in a league of our own. And not starring Tom Hanks, different movie, or different whatever. And that racket you hear in the background, that's people doing cleaning in my house, my wife and kids. Anyway, we're in a league of our own, he says. Both the African Rainfall Climatology version, ARC V2, all these nice little acronyms, and the REV V2, or RFE, I call it the REV because it says right there, REV. But anyway, the RFE version 2 show that this May through June so far is record wet by a very wide margin. Why does this matter? Because strong convection and rainfall over Western Africa, the Sahel region, is indicative of strong tropical wave activity. And as we progress into the, especially from July on, and especially in recent years, these African waves tend to develop, and they can cause trouble, as you know. And I mean, even this easterly wave down here that the Hurricane Center has outlooked could bring some flooding, rain, and other issues to Trinidad and Tobago. So this is relevant not just for the harbinger, as he says right there, of an active Cape Verde or Cabo Verde hurricane season to come. I know it as Cape Verde from when I grew up. Anyway, and that's right there at Cape Verde along the west coast of Africa. Not only is it a harbinger of that, perhaps, a busy, busy peak time of the season, but these strong tropical waves coming off make their way into the windwards and the leewards, etc., and they can, by themselves, cause problems. So we got to pay attention to all of this. It's not just about, hey, where's the next Category 5? When is it coming? That's not really what of course we're on the lookout for that, but we want to make sure we keep into focus all hazards and all of these, even a depression, a storm, all the way up to your Irmas and your Marias, everything in between. But important too are the seedlings, those tropical waves that come across. They can cause trouble all by themselves. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that and see how things progress. All right, that's it. Again, I am on Twitter at HurricaneTrack. Of course, YouTube, HurricaneTrack as well. Subscribe. Select notifications on if you want to be notified to my presence whenever I post a video or I go live. And we are supported by patrons on Patreon. That is available in the link in today's video description. As always, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'll have more for you tomorrow. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. We'll talk again tomorrow.